So we are here with Jacen Burrows. Thanks a lot for sitting down with us.
Yep. Nice to meet you.
So Jacen, you are the artist for NeoNomicon and Crossed and a whole bunch of other books. How did you get started in all of this?
As far as like this company or in
Just
general?
art in general, and then we'll get to Avatar in a minute.
Well, I was one of those kids that always just drew instead of paying attention in class. So I had an art-related background from, childhood. And I knew by the time I was 10 years old, it was going to be some sort of art-related field. And by the time I was like 12 or 13, I was deeply into comics, and I thought, this is what I want to do. And, it's just been kind of a steady ride towards that goal. And, yeah, there was never really any looking back or any regrets.
So how did you end up at Avatar?
Well, I had originally, when you're first trying to break in, at least back in the 90s, you had to try and work your way through the small press. So I did a bunch of stuff for various small press companies that all went out of business, usually mid-project. Like there was Greater Mercury, London Night Studios. One of the projects I did, a particular writer had also done a project in that book, and he really liked what I did. So he got me a job working with him at Caliber, and then Caliber went out of business, but we'd already started a relationship, so we came to Avatar together because he already knew the owner, and we just started working on what at the time was the kind of the standard bad girl comics of Avatar. And by just being here during that time period, when Warren Ellis came to like set up shop, I was one of the artists he got to kind of pick through, and he really liked my stuff. So that put me on Dark Blue, which just kind of kept the ball rolling and leading to more and more projects. So from there it was Garth Ennis and Alan Moore, and it's just been a pretty good ride.
Well, as I say, you were talking about how you had to, originally sort of work your way up through the independent press, but you've just listed off three of the top writers in the industry who you've gotten not only to work with, but to really help define a product with.
Yeah.
So let's just sort of break down a couple of these, your most recent ones. Let's start with Crossed for a minute. What the hell? Crossed is Garth Ennis' sort of take on zombie comics-esque. Where did you get brought into this process?
Well, him and I had already done a couple of projects at Avatar, and he was basically just working towards his next thing because he likes to percolate on ideas for a while. And I believe originally the idea was to create more of like a badass character who was fighting zombie type things in sort of an apocalyptic setting. And through the course of kind of tinkering with it, became clear to him that he wanted to do something that was much more serious, something that was much more about surviving and just just a deeper story. I think he was inspired a lot by The Road by Cormac McCarthy, and it was just one of those things where it just kind of developed for him that way. And then since we had just finished up, I believe it was Chronicles of Wormwood, we had a good relationship, so I was the natural artist for that. Plus, I've been doing the covers for all of our zombie books for a long time, and zombies I have a real affinity for, and this has similarities to the genre, but there are variations on the theme, and so it was just kind of a natural fit. I didn't have a whole lot to do with the development, though. Garth is very much one of those people who likes to kind of on his own come up with the concept and the basic setup, and then we work together on designing some of the looks, but it's his baby.
Well, I was going to ask about, in particular about the looks of it. I think that early on, Crossed really got a whole bunch of press because this just was, leaps and bounds beyond what people had seen in a horror comic as far as visuals go. Is that something that you get full script and you're just like, sort of going along with, or how much of those, sort of visual images do you come up with and sort of go back and forth with him on?
He does write full script, so all of the scenes were basically there. I probably got to tinker with some of the looks of the characters a little bit, but most of the atrocities were all from Garth's imagination. Some of the the gang that's following the lead characters through the storyline, I got to design them, but like the lead 2 or 3 characters were all him.
So, I mean, for reference, do you just have piles of anatomy books? Do you go and observe, autopsies? What do you do for your research for this?
Being a comic book artist in general is really about trying to master anatomy. When I was in art school, we had an anatomy class that actually got to go to a cadaver lab at the local medical school, which was really, really helpful in kind of seeing a lot of the, how everything connects. And it was gruesome, but pretty cool. But I try to do a lot of research. Like all of us who work in the industry probably have books and books and books on anatomy and all that. But I also, very specifically for this project, I went and I looked at a lot of war photography, because you're not going to find anything that's more brutal and gruesome and just kind of like affecting as what is going on in Iraq and Afghanistan and places like that. And I saw some really gruesome stuff. And there's ways that you can depict violence that isn't glorifying it at all. It's meant to kind of punch you in the gut. And I think if you can tap into a little bit of that realism, it has more of an effect. And it's like, it might seem to some people like we're trying to just glorify the violence, but it's really not. That's not really the intent. It was always to, I think the artistic mission of the book was to kind of disturb the reader a little bit, and I think we do a pretty good job of it.
I say mission accomplished.
Yeah, and it does have a lot of humor too, which might confuse some people, but that's just the way Garth writes, and we both have a kind of a similar black humor, so it's an interesting project.